This is an example of adding multiple georeferences and maintaining them and managing them. There are three user requirements. First user requirements is a user must be able to add a second georeference assertion. The second is a user must be able to delete a georeference assertion and maintain the other ones. And the third requirement is we need to be able to specify one of these georeferences. If there's more than one, we have to be able to specify one of them as the primary assertion. So we're going to use a little bit of logic here to keep the UI and choices by the user very minimal. So I'm going to go ahead. We don't need verbatim lat long in order to do this, but it's here. So I'm just going to go ahead and let's say I'm just translating this using Google Maps. So I just get this coordinate here. Maybe it's not super accurate, and I said I got it from Google Maps. Great, so that's the first assertion. You'll notice there's nothing extra in the UI. It's just one assertion, so there's no need to have any extra UI. As soon as I go to add another georeference, though, it's going to engage a little tabby bar up at the top, so I can go back and look at who I'm looking at. Why don't you work for me, man? Work for me. Click. There we go. Okay, so I should be able to go back and forth between the two. And we're just going to have a little tooltip here to explain to the user, because this make this primary button probably won't make any sense. So we'll have a little tooltip there to explain what make this primary does. And what it does is, once I've entered some data, so I've entered some more accurate data because someone else went into the field with a super accurate GPS, and they're giving me more numbers here. So this is a secondary assertion that's more accurate, but I don't want to delete the first one. I can delete this one, and if I do, all the UI goes away. I go back to the old first assertion that I had before. Okay? There's no need to keep any of that extra UI. This is obviously the primary because it's the only one, right? So if I add a secondary georeference, fill it out, what I can do now is I can make this the primary, and this is kind of a logic thing where once I make this guy the primary, the first assertion goes back to being, this is now a selectable, clickable button, make this primary, whereas on the secondary assertion, this is not, this is a disabled button, and it says primary. So people can infer this is now the primary assertion, and if you make something primary, obviously you make all the others not primary. So it's just a simple choice. No checkboxes are necessary. So once I have done that, I can actually go and let's say we don't even want this georeference. So if I delete this, the first georeference, now again it gets rid of the UI because there's only one georeference, and we now know that this is the primary. It's the sole and primary. So that is the three use cases there. Just to recap, so I can enter one, I can enter a second one, I can make the second one primary, and then I can delete a georeference and it will just accommodate that. Now there's one edge case, and I don't want to have any fancy functionality because I think it's such an edge case. So I think at this point we're just going to roll with the simplest solution. So what if I have three georeferences, the third one being the primary? What if I delete that primary georeference? What happens? There's a million ways we could solve this. I'm going with the absolute simplest. When I delete the primary georeference, we're just going to say that the first georeference defaults back to the primary assertion because it's the first. You'll have to then go to the secondary assertion, and like before, you'll have to manually make it primary. But the reason I want to do it that way, to just say it and delete this and make the first one primary, it's just the easiest, and we don't have to do any fancy logic. You simply say, if you remove the primary assertion, the first assertion defaults back to the primary assertion. And that is that. So thank you very much.